Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of Hello Again with me, Broomy Le Broomy. And this week I'm joined by author extraordinaire of thrillers, Sam Carrington. Hello Sam, how are you?
Hi Isabelle, how are you? I'm good, thank you. Yeah, really. Thank you so much for having me on.
Oh no, you're very, very welcome. Is it frosty and cold where you are as well?
It's cold, yeah, it's definitely, I've got the heating on. I did have a jumper on just now, but I've taken that off now, so yeah. Yeah, it's fresh, very fresh.
Yes. Well, let's start, as we always do, by you telling us a little bit about you and the sort of books you write.
Well, yeah, I'm Sam Carrington. I live in Devon, so I'm kind of in between Dartmoor and the coast, so kind of lovely. You know, I've got best of both worlds. I've got 3 children, although they're all grown up now. I've only got one left at home, and I'm a Grammy now. My eldest daughter's had a baby. Well, he's 19 months old now, so that's been a wonderful addition to the family. What else can I tell you? Oh, well, I'm a author of psychological thrillers. So I've written 6. The first one was Saving Sophie back in 2016, and the 6th one now out in December is The Open House. So yeah,
look at that, brand spanking new.
And it's such a lovely cover, isn't it? Look at that.
It is.
Nice yellow door. I think I might have one done myself like that now, just to match the cover.
It's so enticing when you see a door on the cover of a book, I think, because you just want to walk through it and you want to know what lays behind it.
Nosy, yeah. It's just
I think everyone does that. I mean, it's impossible to walk past someone's house if the curtains are open. You have to have a look, don't you?
Just a slight like look like that, especially because I live in a village, so yeah, we're all a little bit nosy.
Oh, brilliant. I know. Well, it's not, I live in not really a village. I'm sort of on the outskirts of a town, but it's a kind of small community where we are, but everybody's houses are, you know, miles back from the roadside, so you can't.
Oh, it's not quite as easy to be nosy. No.
You can't be too nosy.
No, they can tell that you're being nosy. You can't just surreptitiously give a glance. You have to like walk up the path, perhaps.
Yeah, exactly. Scare the life out of them. It makes social distancing really easy, though. So
that is true.
Everybody's miles away from each other. Now, your books are great because, and I think domestic noir generally is great because the situations and the characters are always so relatable for readers, and it's a kind of, I think Mark Edwards calls it extraordinary things happening to ordinary people. So you can, it's very easy to put yourselves in the shoes of your characters and their scenarios, which I think is why they're so, you know, you can just gobble them up, so to speak. They're such a popular.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Do you find that your stories always begin with a foundation of truth?
I think yes. I think they probably do. Particularly like The Open House. I've moved house several times in the same village, so I just keep moving from like house to house within the village. So I've never had an actual open house event, but I was with a friend having a coffee one day pre-lockdown, and she was telling me about her open house that she was about to have. Yeah. So yeah, it kind of, when we were sat chatting and she was telling me about all the worries that she had about people traipsing in the house, loads of people in one go, and you know, she was going to go off so that she didn't have to see anybody, but she mentioned to me that she would like to set up her phone to video who's coming in, just to see if there's any nosy neighbours popping in to have a look or anything like that. And that's what got me thinking, oh, that's a really interesting concept actually, because again, it's things like stressful situations as well, isn't it? So all the stressful things that you can happen in life, selling your house can be one of them. Yeah. So I just thought all those things together would be really good. And then I've given my character, of course, a few extra stresses, and you know, she's in the middle of a separation as well, so you know, all the big things happening. You throw everything at your characters, don't you? You don't want them to have a good time.
Do you think, what can I take away from this person? I'll take their friend away, I'll take their partner away, I'll take their livelihood away. What else is there?
And I suppose, I mean, like you said, they're quite ordinary things. Lots of people go through those things all the time. So yeah, I think, like you said, it is relatable, and you can, even if you haven't been through that situation yourself, it is a little easier to empathise and you know, imagine how it might be. So yeah, I think that's why domestic noir, like you said, is so popular.
Yes, and how would I react if ...
if that happened? Yeah, and you want it to be something, you know, that's not, like you said, an everyday thing, but you want to push the boundaries of that and make it as, you know, challenging as possible. So hopefully not one person would ever go through all of the things in one go, would they? But you know, you just have to pile it on for the fiction side of it. But yeah, ultimately everything kind of has an element of truth, I think, in it. And I use character traits as well from people that I know that have got an element of truth in as well, so it makes it more realistic, perhaps.
Yes, definitely. I think I always say it's quite limiting if I try, because people always ask, don't they, who do you base your characters on? Do you base your characters on people you know? And I always say no, because you could never be inside the head of someone you know in the way that you need to with a character, but you definitely borrow anecdotal.
All right, that's what. Yeah, I think that's borrowing bits and pieces from a lot of people, not just like one person. You wouldn't like think, oh, I'm going to take that friend and pop them in the book. You know, you just wouldn't do it. Although I have actually done that. Kind of done that for this one, but only I've got a couple of friends who I promised I would put in my book, so there is a couple of characters in there that I have lifted from real life, but they're not exactly how they are, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
I've just taken their names, really.
You haven't murdered them off in horrible ways or anything like that.
Well, I might have done.
No. I remember interviewing another author once before, and her saying to me, you know, if a man ever crosses you in life, just get your own back through fiction. She said, because no one's going to come knocking and say, that horrible, hateful character that does those awful things, I think that's based on me. I could sue you for defamation. No one's.
Yeah, I do keep thinking I might make a bit of a hit list, but I haven't done that yet.
I don't dislike anyone that much, not yet anyway. So tell us a bit more about the book.
So yeah, the open house is kind of starts with the fact that Amber Miller is separating from her husband. She is she's so far got the family home because she's got 2 boys, but they're selling they've agreed, her and her husband, ex-husband Nick, have agreed to sell the property, split it, so that then Amber can have the money to go, and she's going to start a new life in Kent with her new fella. So Nick is kind of on board with it, but obviously there's a little bit of an undercurrent there because of his children, but he wants the best for her, but his mother doesn't. His mother, Barb, is particularly anxious about them moving away, doesn't really want them to, because as far as she's concerned, Amber's taking away her precious grandsons. So there's a lot of conflict between Amber and her mother-in-law in the book. And also the fact that the property isn't selling as quickly as she wanted it to, so her life is being a bit halted. Her new chapter is not quite as quickly forthcoming as she wanted it to, so she agrees to an open house. Her estate agent said, oh, you know, this is a really good way of getting loads of interest, so she agrees to the open house. And then the big thing is 13 people go in for the open house, but only 12 leave. Ooh. So that's kind of the hook of the book, if you like. So then it's what happens afterwards. Yeah, so it's the full-on after that of bits and pieces that are going on. Strange things start going on in the house, and you know, it's wondering who's behind it and why, and everybody's got a bit of a reason to not want Amber to go, and likewise some of, you know, actually do want her to go. So there's like the big push and pull kind of thing going on throughout the book.
All right, dog. Sorry. Dog's giving you a little whoop there, I think.
Thank you, doggy.
Thrillers set around homes and in the home, things like Our House, have been huge in the past few years. What do you think it is about the house setting in particular that readers find so irresistible?
Well, I think it's your safe place, isn't it? Or it's where you hope would be your safe haven, and you lock the door and it's your place and nobody can hurt you in it. Well, that's the hope. So and I think all of us have those fears as well, that, you know, maybe we might be broken into, or there's, you know, somebody might do something and encroach in your own space. So like you said, you know, it's those things that sometimes putting it into books, our worries, our own worries, reflect life in general, and how people you kind of live through a book, I suppose. So you go through all these awful things in a book, hoping that you never actually have to go through it in real life. So yeah,
that's true. I think that it's the same with TV shows as well, isn't it? I think it's why dramas do so well, because it always is these awful things, and you just feel relieved that you're not,
it's not you. Yeah. Yeah, you kind of,
or something.
Yeah, on the edge of your seat, waiting for all the bad things to happen and really enjoying it in a bad way, but glad it's not you.
Like a macabre voyeuristic way.
Yes.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant. So in the past, you've worked for both the NHS and the prison service, is that right?
I have, yeah. Yeah, the bulk of my kind of working life was NHS in Torbay Hospital, which is near us, and in the maternity unit for most of it. So I actually had a really lovely cushy job of, working with the babies. And then I ended up doing my training, nurse training. So moved away from the babies into adult care. But it wasn't long after I qualified, actually, that I decided that that isn't what I wanted to do anymore. And I ended up working for the prison service. So slight difference, not in the care department. I went to the psychology department and started doing like facilitating, which like the offending behaviour programmes and working with groups of prisoners to, on the programmes in view of rehabilitating them. So yeah, the bulk of my sort of experience for books, I suppose, has come from the prison side of it rather than the nursing side. I don't think I've used any of my nursing sort of experience in my books, actually. I should have done that, shouldn't I? Yeah. Well, set one in a hospital. But yeah, no, it's mainly sort of the prison side of things that gave me my inspiration. And inspiration is possibly the wrong word, I don't know, but gave me that, all the experiences that I've used to build my writing. So yeah, but I was only actually in the prison service for 3 years, but I packed quite a lot in that time. But yeah, so I left in 2013 and started writing very soon after I left. Yeah, so I think my first book I'd written in 2014. So yeah, so I went from one job to another, sort of thing.
Understanding human psychology must be such a gift.
I don't. Do we ever understand it? Do we ever really understand it? I wonder. I mean, you try, but there's so many theories and books, isn't there, and things that you could forever be looking into it. It's fascinating, absolutely fascinating. I think psychology,
definitely,
which is probably why we write books as well. I think you're interested in the human psyche and what goes on and why we do the things we do and why one person might go this way and one go another. So I think it's endlessly fascinating to delve into people's minds.
So true.
Not that I do that now, obviously. I don't delve into people's minds, but research and things.
Yeah, well, you do through your characters, and I think it's characters, isn't it, that drives books and actually brings readers to the books. I think I don't know about you, but if I read a book that has not, I don't want to say unlikable characters, but characters that you don't really care what they're doing, whether it's good or bad. It's got to be. There's got to be those juicy, follow them anywhere characters that you sort of read about them taking the bins out because you just want to spend time with them and or are fascinated by them in a sort of horrified way.
Exactly. Yeah, take the serial killers bins out. That's good. I like that.
Yeah. And I suppose it gives you an opportunity, doesn't it, to spend time with people that you wouldn't necessarily ever encounter in real life. I think it's partly why true crime documentaries are so popular as well, because these are people, or like Death Row with Piers Morgan or whatever. It's because you're never going to encounter these people, probably, hopefully, in real life.
Well, in real life, yeah. I suppose I did encounter quite a few murderers, but not but in a different setting, not like outside my house or anything. So that's. But it was quite actually interesting when I first started working in the prison, because obviously you've got a lot of, people that have done bad things in one place, and it suddenly become a little bit more paranoid about general life. And when you're walking down the street, I must admit I used to look at people very differently.
Really?
Now I've not been working there for quite some time, I'm beginning to get back to normal now, so I don't mistrust every single person I see now. Just most of them. But yeah, it's fascinating. But
I suppose people don't ever know what they're capable of sometimes until they are in a position.
Exactly. That set of circumstances, if everything comes together, like the perfect storm kind of thing, then we don't know, do we, what we would do. And I think especially when children are involved as well, I always think that your own children, you always say I'll do anything for them. And I do think when the chips are down, you probably would.
Yeah, that mother bear or daddy bear instinct to protect is very strong, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
I have
And now I've got a grandchild as well. It's all different again now. Yeah.
You're like, oh God, the pressure.
I know. Everyone used to say to me, everyone that's already got grandchildren is like, oh, it's so different when you've got a grandchild as opposed to your own children. I'm like, yeah, but it really is, and it's wonderful. Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit about your writing process? Are you quite strict with your time? Are you quite good about things like that, or are you sort of falling on the right move? Like the rest.
I fall down Twitter holes and with research as well. Sometimes you might want just a tiny bit of research, and you go in, and suddenly 2 hours later you're thinking, oh God, I have a process, I do, but I don't always stick to it rigidly. So I try the mornings to get up and think. I think over lockdown my timings has been slightly different, because I used to be a morning worker. Get up, do the stuff, and then have the afternoon to do other things. But now I must admit I'm tending to do a lot more in the afternoon. It takes me longer to get going in the mornings. I'm up, but I'm just doing Twitter, or Instagram is another favourite place to spend hours.
A friendly place to lurk, isn't it?
It is. It's lovely. It's so nice, isn't it? And I do go out on lots of walks and take lots of photos, so I do like to have Instagram to go to. So yeah, in the afternoon. But I sit down and I try to have a plan of what I'm doing that day. At the moment I'm in the midst of copy editing and writing my 7th psych thriller, which is going to be it's due in March. So I've got quite a tight deadline. So I'm trying to do copy editing in the morning and then trying to do a little bit of writing in the afternoon. Gosh, not particularly working brilliantly at the moment, because the copy edit is quite awkward. It's an awkward one, this one. Timeline issues. That's taking a lot of brain power. So then as soon as I've done that, I've got nothing in the afternoon.
It's like that game.
I need to have a nap.
With all the math symbols coming up, and she's just like,
yeah.
That's what I'm like when I look at structural edit notes. I'm just like, oh.
Yeah, I think I'm working on 3 different manuscript versions at the moment and trying to flip between them all. So yeah, it's great fun. But yeah, I'm sorry, I've forgotten. The question was about the process, wasn't it? So,
yeah.
I think I always start with like a synopsis, a brief kind of thing of what I am intending, what I've seen in my head, I think, as the book that I wanted to write, and I just pad that out a bit so that I've got a beginning, middle and an end, and then just try and think how many characters I need, who's going to tell the story, who's going to interact with who the goodies and baddies are, all that sort of thing. So it's getting all of the kind of nitty-gritty bits together and working out what their character flaws are going to be and all that sort of thing. So it takes quite a long time, I think, the beginning, doesn't it, just to get all those things together. And so I quite often have like little index cards of each character and all the bits and pieces, the bio and what have you. And I've got a cork board which I use, and I've got a big flip chart here that I use. Wow. So I've got lots of tools that I use to try and make it. So I do plan a fair bit, but it's loosely planned, I'd say, rather than I'm not like writing down every chapter what I'm going to do. I just write down plot points and things, and then try and get to those plot points, and then try and figure out what the twists are going to be. Because with psychological thrillers, mostly I know not all of them have twists galore, but a lot of them do, and so I'm trying to think what those twists could be, and because you've got to work them in obviously along the way, so you can't just suddenly think, oh, that was a good twist, and whack it in. You have to threaded it all through. So it's a good idea to know what some of those twists might be, even if it's not the final big twist. That might come later on.
I think there's a difference as well, isn't there, between a twist and a reveal?
Yeah, actually, you're right. Yeah,
reveals are called twists on the sort of the shocking twist you won't see coming, and really it's just a reveal about who did it. Sometimes the reveal is a twist.
Yeah, it's
better now, but do you know what I mean? It's like,
yeah, it's a carefully constructed thing, isn't it? And I think you want some of these little reveals along the way to keep the reader going, and at the end of a chapter, so those kind of cliffhangers could be a reveal, that's not massive, but it's enough to make someone go, oh, let's carry on and see where this goes. So
have you been watching the the series The Undoing with
Yes.
Nicole
Yes.
Kidman and Hugh Grant.
Yes.
I think they've done that so well because they've had a little sort of shocker at the end of each episode, which makes you think,
it's made you think,
keep watching, and then
it's made you think something slightly different, or it has made me think something slightly differently each time. So it's been very clever.
It's very clever the way it's unrolling the plot, actually, and it's if anyone is watching who wants to write psychological thrillers and wants to see how good structure is, as well as reading Sam's books, watch that, because that is a masterclass, I think, in suspense and sort of hooking the viewer in.
It's definitely been really. Do you know what though? Are you the same as me, where you're thinking, why is it only on once a week? I want to binge watch this. I need to binge it. And it's mind you, then it makes you think that, oh my god, that week went quick. When it's on again, you think, oh god, that's so cool, because the weeks just fly by, don't they, when you've got something on every week like that.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, it's Bake Off as well. Bake Off, and although
have you finished watching Bake Off now?
Yeah.
You have.
Yeah, I think we're allowed to talk about who won now.
Are we allowed to? I was going to say, because I did mess up and put something on Twitter, and somebody said, "Oh, I knew I should have avoided social media," and I thought, "Oh, sorry,but it was."
I would have avoided social media had I not seen it, because it's just impossible to.
It is
just be right there, won't it?
No, it was really good. I really enjoyed it. It's one of those things that's lifted my spirits this year, I think.
Yes. Bake Off, not the murderous drama. There were a lot of food murders in Bake Off, actually, didn't it? A lot of plans torn asunder by timing issues and temperatures in the tent.
Temperatures were definitely a thing, weren't they? Always are, I think, though, in the Bake Off tent, aren't they? There's always temperature issues.
Move it indoors. I suppose they can't, because then it will just be MasterChef, won't it, if they move it indoors?
Oh, that's true. Yeah, it would be.
We've reached the end of my prepared questions, but this time I usually do a little fire round at the end. So
oh God, will it be quick, or will I just ramble on and on and on?
We'll see. I'll delve, try and get one that we haven't had for a while. Right. Question 1 is your greatest achievement. Can be book related or not.
Well, you have to say children are your greatest achievement. Aside from the children, who are obviously my greatest achievement. Do you know, it has to be about the books. It does. It has to be about being published, because it is such. I mean, it's amazing to be published. I think it was a dream for. It wasn't a dream for my whole entire life. I'm not an author who's been desperately wanted to be published for years and years and years, but I did want to be published, and I worked, I did still work hard for it. So it is a huge accomplishment when you get your aids and then a publishing deal. It was just, I could, the feeling of that, the just amazing thing. I could eat out on that forever. So definitely.
That phone call, isn't it? When you find out.
The phone call, I remember, and I do remember the phone call. I was driving. I did pull over. I pulled over and I was picking my sons up, actually. They're in town with friends. And I'd pulled over, and my agent, Anne, was on the phone, and she was saying, it was just before Christmas. And she said that Avon were interested in Saving Sophie. It wasn't called Saving Sophie at the time. That's another long story, but it became Saving Sophie. And it was just, I was shaking, you're just like proper shaking. And I thought, how am I going to drive now? I can't drive. So, and then telling everybody. But although I didn't, that was only that they were interested at that point. So obviously there was still a bit of a way to go, the acquisitions meeting and all that sort of thing. Gosh. So it was a little while. It was actually after Christmas before I knew that they were going to take it on. So it was a long Christmas, I must say, that year, waiting for that answer. But
I just remember being more in shock, I think, at first. I didn't quite believe it, and then I rang my mum, and my mum sort of burst into tears and was more emotional than me. I think it took a few months really for it. I think it was when I saw my first proof. My editor at Penguin at the time, she sent one through the mail, and just seeing it in book form was what got me. I think that was the first time I actually shed a tear of happiness. Because
it's just such a wonderful thing.
It's a whirlwind, isn't it? After that sort of, you sign on the line, it's very much sort of like jackets and meetings and publicists, and you'd get sort of swept up in it, and then suddenly it's publication day, and you're like, oh,
Yeah, rabbit in headlights for me, I think. And also, I didn't actually, it's surprising how much I didn't know about publishing. You know, it was all just so, everything is so new, isn't it? And
yeah, there's so much involved.
yeah, I know. Who knew?
You don't think about foreign territories, really. I just used to think, oh, it'd be nice to go into Waterstones and see my book there. And you know, I didn't know anything about supermarket sales and, you know, placement and tables and costs. And
I know, it's just such a huge thing, isn't it? It's like, yeah. Sometimes it's nice not to know anything. Ignorance is bliss.
Too much. I'm like, I could just go back to knowing nothing at all. Anyway, we've digressed.
I told you I would.
No, it's good. Oh, dream holiday destination.
Anywhere at the minute, I think. I haven't been on holiday for so long. I can't even remember. I think it was probably my last family holiday was in Spain about 10 years ago. I've always quite fancied New England in the fall with all the. I know it's very similar to here. I get that, but I've always fancied New England. Although Canada as well. I do like the thought of Canada.
Canada's amazing. Where would you go?
I don't. My daughter-in-law to be is from. It's gone up my head. She's going to kill me. Where does she come from? I've forgotten where she comes from. Toronto. She comes from Toronto. So she's obviously got her parents living there. So you know, I'm kind of hoping that one day, soonish, they get married in May. So hopefully. So
celebrating the end of COVID.
Yeah. So whether I might be able to go on honeymoon with them to Canada or something.
Why not? I've done both. I've done the kind of city side of Toronto and Niagara and all that, and then the Rockies as well.
Oh, see the Rockies, yeah, it just looks so fabulous. Yeah, I'd love to do that.
Canada's one of the friendliest countries that I've ever visited. It's right.
Really? Oh, that's good.
So friendly and just feels very safe and welcoming, and they give you really big portions of food as well, which is we can just
sold.
You need to set aside at least 2 hours for breakfast because you'll just be
really?
Meeting.
Sounds perfect. There you go, dream holiday then. That's it, Canada. We're going.
Yes. Right. Let's do this little one. Yeah. Oh, tell us a surprising fact about you.
Oh my goodness. Do I have any? Surprising fact.
Surprising fact.
Oh, give us a clue. I haven't got anything. Surprising fact.
I'll give you one about me.
Go on then.
I once won a drawing competition for an Easter card by drawing stick chicks. It was literally like a line of yellow and a line of yellow and 2 stick legs. And I won a prize for that.
That's really good. Oh, I love that. See, before I was a writer, I did used to, if anyone asked that sort of thing before, it was that I had a headline in the News of the World.
Ooh.
I was the headline. But it's Michael Winner that wrote the article. It's a thing. It's to do with the competition. And I don't know if you remember back in the day, a long time ago. You're probably too young. They used to do a picture of eyes, just a snippet of a famous person's eyes, and you'd have to guess who the eyes belonged to. And I think it was, oh crikey, I think it's when I first had a computer, because I remember emailing, and it was one of the first times I'd emailed. So I emailed in saying, it's definitely Ben Affleck, right? I do remember this specifically. It's definitely Ben Affleck. Something like, if it's not, I'll run around my garden naked. It's such a stupid thing to have said, but anyway, that's what I'd said. And it wasn't Ben Affleck at all. So Michael, the headline was something like, put your pick where your mouth is, Sam. So he'd actually put this thing, send a pic in of you running around your garden naked. I'm like, no, you're all right, Michael, I won't send it in, it's fine. But yeah, I'd made the headline of his article, and yeah, at the time that was really funny.
I hope you cut it out and kept it.
I didn't, and I tried to find it since, like in the archives, and I can't find it. So that's it. You've only got my word for it.
Listening from a News International and can dig that out from some hard drive somewhere.
It was like 2000. It must have been like 2004 or something. No, before that probably. It's mad. But yeah.
Early days of emails, like late 90s, isn't it?
I don't even remember now actually. But I know that
mail account in 98.
I know mine was an AOL kind of .com thing. That's all I remember really. those are the days, before email.
If you think about how fast the world has changed, it's actually quite terrifying, isn't it?
It really is. Yeah. What's to come?
Smartphones, and a few years ago, MySpace was the only thing.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I remember MySpace as well.
Yeah, I remember being friends with Tom from MySpace.
So do I. Yes, I still. Yeah, that's really funny.
Okay, we'll finish on this one because this is a nice one. What's been your writing career highlight to date?
So probably actually back when I first wrote Saving Sophie, which I can't remember what it's called now at the time, I entered it into the Crime Writers Association Debut Dagger Award.
Amazing.
And I was longlisted. So, you know, I didn't win, I wasn't shortlisted, but I was longlisted. And that was the beginning of really my writing career and how I ended up getting my agent and publishing deals. So that has to be a highlight for me, because that first time of being recognised as a writer, you know, and actually longlisted, it was amazing. I just, won't ever forget that. So it was definitely a highlight. I'd love to win something else now, please. It's about time I won something else, I think.
I'll take the Booker, that'll be fine.
Oh yeah. So yeah,
there's nothing like sort of getting recognition from your peers, though, is there? I had a similar thing. I won a short story competition through Simon and Schuster, and it was judged by Lizzie Kramer and Millie Johnson and the amazing team at Simon and Schuster. And that sort of gave me the confidence, because I've been messing around with novel ideas for years, and I just didn't have the confidence to do a whole book. And then I had these industry people saying to me, you know, you can write, please write a book. And that was what it was that gave me the push I needed to
yeah, it does give, it gives, like you said, that big, huge confidence boost and keeps you kind of going in that direction, doesn't it? Yeah.
You never believe friends and family, even if they are being sincere. You think they're just saying it to be nice. My mum's like, this is your best book yet. I'm like, well, you have to say that because you're my mother.
Oh.
Can't be me.
Oh, I wish, see, I lost my mum and dad before I became published. So it's one of those things I've always, I really wish they knew. But, you know, I know people say, oh, they probably know. But yeah, that was one of the downsides of having been published without their knowledge, really. But
it's a bittersweet. But
yeah, and I know they would have been proud. Obviously, my dad was, because I used to go to the library with him all the time as a kid, and he was really big into writing. So I know he would have been utterly thrilled, and he might have even read my books, because my husband doesn't read my books.
Really?
So no.
A lot of my friends don't read mine either, or they're like on book 2 and they're like, which one's this? I'm like, this is number 8. Like, oh, for God's sake. But you know, a lot of people only read, you know, because we sort of exist in this tiny bubble of industry people and writers where everybody's book mad and reads, you know, sort of
copious amounts, continually,
a month minimum. And but some people only read 2 books a year or 1 book a year, even on their holiday, and that's it. It's incredible.
Yeah. I think I'm going to force him to read this one. I think.
Yes.
I'm going to force him. Yeah.
You should tell him he's in it. He's on page 3.
No, he definitely. He won't read it if he thinks that.
You'll have to kill him off then to get your revenge. No, not really.
The fact that it's about like separation, he might think, oh, perhaps I won't let him read that one, because he might think I'm trying to like get rid of him.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe if he gives you an idea for a book, then he'll feel like it's his book.
True. Yeah, might do. But, yeah, actually, this one, I had a couple of friends. I took my flip chart board over to their conservatory, and we actually went through some like excellent plot twists and things, and they were really helpful. Yeah, so
it's really fun, isn't it, collaborating with people?
Yeah, and I think, you know, they loved it because it's like a chance for them to get out all the, you know, interesting things that they can think of books. They're big readers, but, you know, actually Jamie wants to write a book, but he keeps saying he's going to write it. You know, when people say, I'm going to write a book, and they don't do it. So I keep saying to him, you've just got to sit down and write it. Just write, you know, get on with it.
That's it, isn't it? That's the advice. I mean, and people get asked it all the time, you know, how do you write a book? And I'm like, well, you have to write it. Yeah. It's such a simple thing, but unless you sit down and create something, you can't sell it. You can't sell an idea. It's very hard to sell an idea anyway in the current climate.
It is.
Yes. Oh, yes. That's my parting pearl of wisdom for the day. Thank you so much for joining me and for chatting about the books. Hold up. the open house, so we can all
The
see it.
open house.
This is out on the 10th of December.
10th of December in all formats.
Yeah, so
yeah,
make sure you
so-
get a copy. And follow Sam on Instagram as well for her beautiful Devonshire countryside pictures.
Thanks so much. Thank you. It's been lovely to chat to you.
And you, and you.
Thank you.
Make sure you come
Thanks.
back next week, everybody, and for more of the same. And yeah, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.